ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this afternoon session of webinar entitled Understanding Psychological Tests and Assessments. So my name is Clara Delphine, one of the pre-med professional staff. So allow me to introduce our team speaker for this session. She has a degree in Bachelor of Science in Psychology, a master's degree and doctoral degree in Clinical Psychology, and master's in Development Management with certificate course of Project Management at Wharton School of Economics in University of Pennsylvania, USA. She has a wealth of knowledge about individual, group, organizational behavior. For the past 30 years, she has engaged individuals and organizations in the change process to increase their productivity, efficiency, effectiveness to include the training on strategic business plan programs. Develop leadership skills and build self-mastery. She uses a system approach in working with individuals and organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up to our speaker for this session, Dr. Noga.
Thank you very much, Miss Clara, and welcome everybody. I hope that you will be able to really understand psychological tests and assessments. This particular topic is quite intimidating. But guys, this is very easy for us to really understand it better. Maybe I can go you through with many of different slides that I have prepared for this particular topic. And by the way, may I invite you? We will have the full course of this particular topic on July 12 to 13 at the PMAP Center, and I wish that you will be around. So everybody, please come and attend this very detailed seminar. I'll go you through with some summary of what understanding psychological tests and assessments. By the way, I am by profession a clinical psychologist, and when we talk about psychological tests and assessment, it means that probably this is a kind of measurement or examination. And I think some of you might be afraid about psychological tests and assessments because it's something to do with our mental ability as well as, of course, with our personality. So in better understanding of this particular topic, let me tell you that psychological tests are actually diagnostic tools only. And when we talk about diagnosis, quite similar with that of the medical doctors, they would be able to diagnose properly the kind of sickness or the kind of treatment that they will be giving a person if they will undergo certain blood tests, for example, or X-ray before actually prescribing something. So in terms of similarity, psychological tests are quite similar with that of medical tests also. So here, psychological tests and other assessment tools are very helpful in perhaps hiring, in counseling, in training, analysis, in development of people, as well as, of course, in educational setting. So this is a very good scientific tool because it is really a kind of formal test that has undergone standardization. So when we talk about psychological tests, these are considered to be normalized. This has been applied to different people of the same age or different population, and you will get the same results. So that's the reason why they are considered to be normalized. In the Philippines, we need to really have a local norm. If, for example, we apply, we administer, and evaluate psychological tests, because Filipinos have a different standardized or normalized results that we need to look into. So a psychological assessment, on the other hand, are different tools and techniques that we need to apply for purposes of hiring, for purposes of perhaps assessment in terms of educational setting and purposes of knowing exactly the kind of therapies or counseling that we are going to use to help the person. So psychological tests and assessments, I believe, please do not be afraid of it. Please, we can use this. People are intimidated about psychological tests and assessments. Please do not be afraid because these are tools and techniques that can help us in so many different ways, and one of which is really about recruitment or hiring. The war for talent is here and the war for retention. So perhaps if we wanted to really win the war for talent, perhaps one of the best tools and techniques by which we can screen people is to apply psychological tests and different assessments. So assessments, on the other hand, can include not only normalized psychological tests, but can also include different assessment forms. For example, interview. We can also use surveys. You can use informal tests and different online and school and medical records. So I hope that one of the ways by which we will be able to provide some kind of screening is to use psychological tests and assessments. And why is it very important? These are the things that we can use psychological tests and assessments because we can have as basis the evaluation of psychological tests and assessments as a basis for our decisions in hiring. It's about people, in placement, in education, in training and development, as well as, of course, in conducting uh, counseling and mental therapies or psychological therapies. We will also be able to use this to describe and understand behavior. The most difficult to really understand is about behavior. And one of the ways by which we will be able to really understand a human behavior, a person, perhaps, is for us to really know the results of especially the personality tests. We will also use psychological tests and assessment in terms of measuring personal attributes in a way that it can indicate IQ. IQ, it refers to the mental alertness in verbal and numerical. We can also assess the aptitude or the potential of the person in doing perhaps a particular work in the job or in the school. So we can also, all the more, use this in describing the behavior in terms of personality and characteristics of the person. So these are considered to be scientific tools that has undergone a lot of reliability and validity in experimentation. And we can also use psychological tests and assessments in measuring performance. We can also save time because some of the psychological tests are with time limits, and it is most economical because it can be used in so many different number of people. Um, it is also scientific because it has undergone a lot of experiments and it has undergone reliability and validity. So let me first describe or explain all of these different psychological psychological test importance. Why is it that it allows us to make important decisions about people? So after all, the reason why we recruit, the reason why we hire is because we need people who are fit to our organization. And one of the ways by which you will be able to measure, probably analyze if a person is a fit to our organization is using all of these different assessment tools, which can include psychological tests, include also interview. We can also include different surveys. We can also include other records that we can evaluate. So what is really important is to really get a fit, somebody who is really bagay, sa Tagalog, bagay sa ating kumpanya. And we also have to know exactly and understand the behavior of this person because psychological tests and assessments can provide you results or evaluation that predicts the performance of the person even if the person hasn't performed yet the job or the task. These are considered to be very important. The factors of knowledge, the factors about attitude, skills, and habits. I always say that in many of my training programs that, hey guys, we need to really measure the competency of the person because these are considered to be characteristics that predict successful performance of a job. So, how do we measure the cash or the competency? We need to use, of course, psychological tests and assessment. And it can also measure performance. How does the psychological test and assessments can measure performance? More so with regards to the competency. Performance, after all, is a product of competency plus standards, or in the lingo of HR, KPIs, key performance indicators. So when we talk about competencies, these are intrinsic characteristics of a person. And the way by which you will be able to really know the competency level of the person, one of the ways by which you will be able to really know that is through psychological tests and assessment tools. So it is considered to be scientific. Again, as I said, let me point out that many of the psychological tests has undergone experiments in terms of reliability and validity. So when we talk about reliability and validity, it means that it has been normalized. What is the result of one child, for example, or a person in one country is the same as the result of the test in another country. So that's the reason why it's considered to be standardized already. So we go through the next slide. There is a global trend today about psychological tests and assessment. We are really interested, and there is a global increase in the assessment of people for selection, placement, counseling, and development. And we have millions of individuals that are assessed for skills, knowledge, abilities, and other characteristics. And there is a global concern to ensure that this process is fair and objective. So these are the global trends with regards to the use and understanding of psychological tests and assessments. There is really a trend today in terms of increasing the more scientific method in assessing people for purposes of hiring, for purposes of educational placement, for purposes of training and development, and of course for purposes of helping people through counseling and therapies. We also have to, a while ago as I was saying, to assess the competencies of people who will successfully perform the job. So what are the different competencies that we need to assess, we need to measure prior to the person doing the job is, of course, certainly about knowledge. When we talk about knowledge, that can be measured with regards to the IQ and aptitude test. With regards to the skills, the level of expertise, the level of knowing exactly locomotor skills, we need to measure that through probably another psychological test and assessments that we can use perhaps more on the attitude. And when we talk about behavior, we can measure that through personality tests, through probably uh, we have projective tests that we use clinically. So, in fact, the distinction between that of the psychologist and the psychiatrist is that psychologist provides diagnosis and measurement with regards to exactly the kind of mental illness the person has. And on the other hand, the psychiatrist, based on the diagnosis, provides the medications and the treatment. So the psychologist and the psychiatrist both has to really go hand in hand in the diagnosis as well as the treatment of somebody who has some symptoms of mental disorder. And now, globally, we have concern with regards to the fairness and objectivity of the process of measurement. So one of the ways by which we can ensure that there is fairness and objectivity is uh, the use of psychological tests and assessments. So we have another slide here. So we will go into the detail of the use of the psychological tests and assessments. We have here a slide with regards to hiring. One of the best ways by which you will be able to have objective hiring is to get the psychological test evaluation and assessment evaluation of the candidates to provide fair and objective measure of the skill, ability, or the potential to acquire it. So it's very important that there is a level of fairness, a level of objectivity, even if the person is so close to us, that person has undergone this particular uh, objective assessment. And it gives more rounded picture of suitability for a role. So not only do we assess the mental ability, but also the potential of the person. Uh, I always say that when we hire people, we hire the person with the potential to become probably the CEO of the company. It's not only because of uh, hiring the person even at the lowest level. We have to hire the person who has the potential to become perhaps the CEO or the president of the company. So we are looking into succession planning as one of the ways by which you can also profile our own internal employees. We can also use psychological tests and assessments in objectively comparing candidates' performance with norm levels for a similar population. So that means to say the same age, the same kind of genre, the same population. Um, that means to say we can compare and benchmark one another who's the best from among the different candidates. So we can select, we can prioritize which one has the appropriate, has the fit in terms of mental ability, all the more when it comes to personality. So who has the adaptability to adapt to your own company's culture? Because it's very, very difficult for people who don't have that kind of personal attribute to adapt to a particular culture. Charles Darwin said that anyone who can probably survive requires adaptability or flexibility. A species can survive has the adaptability and flexibility. One of the ways by which you will be able to really evaluate if the person has that kind of trait is through psychological tests and assessments. And all things being equal, we need to also assess whether the person has conscientiousness or has the organizational ability. So we choose people who has that kind because it can ensure probably performance and productivity. So psychological tests and assessments in hiring is a reliable predictor of how well someone is likely to perform in a given job and professional exams. So these are considered to be the tools and techniques that can probably provide us with reliability or predictability on how well the person will be able to perform successfully in a job. So another use of psychological tests and assessments and to be able to understand in terms of application in the educational setting is for us to really use IQ tests and achievement tests for placement and for advancement. In fact, in many of the schools, before you enter into any of, even in public schools, we need to really have our children undergo uh, these intelligence tests and achievement tests. I remember when I went to college way back in the 70s, I have to pass the test of NCEE. I don't know if it's still being applied today. I'm not pretty sure whether there is still NCEE, but in many different countries, before you enter into different levels of school, you have to undergo psychological tests. Although they do not exactly say that it is a psychological test, they would say that it is an achievement test or an IQ test, nonetheless, that's the same. And we have to really make admission and advancement decisions regarding students by uh, going through these different psychological tests. In fact, right now, I believe when you go through, when you wanted to really enroll in law school or in a medical school, you have to undergo entrance tests. Entrance tests are actually considered as part of psychological and assessment tests. They are also used to assess students for special education programs and used in diagnosing learning difficulties. So if we need to know, for example, if a student or a child has some kind of learning disability like dyslexia, or for example, ADHD. This has something to do with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and impulse control. We have to really uh, provide these particular assessment tools. It is also being used for purposes of advising students by the guidance counselors and of course can investigate school curriculum. So that's the reason why guidance counselors usually conduct, administer, as well as evaluate psychological tests for purposes of proper or appropriate advising or perhaps counseling or perhaps helping the students. So in many ways, psychological tests and assessments are being used in the educational setting. So we also use psychological tests and assessments in the analysis of the training requirements of the company, of the position, as well as the person. It's very difficult to really assess the requirements of the person, not unless that person still has to go psychological test and assessment. Though many of the training needs analysis are being done nominal technique by just merely asking the person what kind of training or developmental program will he or she needs. But in a more scientific way, one of the best predictor by which we will be able to really assess the training requirements is based on psychological tests and assessments. We have here different tests by which we need to subject the employee, tests in which the subject performs a task, tests that involve observations of the subject's behavior within a particular context, and set report measures. So again, as I was saying a while ago, there are three different training needs analysis that we need to perform and It has to be holistic so that we can really know exactly the requirements of the company, which is paramount. And then the requirements of the position, what kind of competencies are required to really deliver the kind of performance that the company wants. And of course, we need to also know whether the person is willing to learn, is willing to be trained. So that would require a lot of assessments, and one of the assessments for which we can do that is through psychological tests, perhaps through other assessment methods, like for example interview. We can also use survey, we can also use questionnaires, and we can also use checklists and different data. When we talk about tests in which the subject performs a task, this is a kind of uh, simulation technique, assessment technique by which the person will be able to ask to perform a particular task. There is also a test when we have to observe the person doing the job, and we have to observe also the behavior of the person within a particular context. That means to say, within a particular setting, on how the person will be able to really, for example, in have interpersonal relationship with a group of people, given, for example, that these are the things that are happening in a company. And we can also use the test about self-reports. It's kind of an essay that they will do, will report something about whatever it is that they have accomplished, whatever it is that they have targeted for themselves. So these are the different ways in which we'll be able to really use psychological tests and assessments using uh, in the context of the training needs analysis. In this slide, for example, in counseling, before we can conduct proper or appropriate or relevant counseling to help people, first we need to diagnose what kind of symptoms, what kind of analysis in terms of neuropsychological or psychological uh, tests about the mental function, about the behavior of the person, so that we'll be able to really help the person. So there are a lot of different mental disorder symptoms that are happening, and immediately this has to be referred to professionals. And even if not professional, we need to capacitate also people on how to do appropriate counseling. So counseling, that would mean there is a variance in terms of behavior, something that is not anymore normal, and we need to provide first aid, or perhaps if the person is not truly psychologist, then at least the person knows the counseling techniques. So psychological tests and assessments can help in providing that kind of intervention to people who has more or less some kind of symptoms quite similar to those things that are not anymore normal. So in psychology, for example, anything that is normal for 2 consecutive weeks, these are considered to be the person has some kind of disorder already. So it's very important that we need to assess through psychological tests and measurements, as well as in assessment, how to classify, how to diagnose, how to see symptoms that are not anymore normal. So we have to use some kind of objective and subjective personality tests that can assess, for example, the kind of variance, the kind of abnormality. We use that so that we will be able to examine the basic mental function as well as other symptoms that fall into different mental disorder category. So counseling is really very important, whether in school setup, whether in work-related matters, because this is the first aid in helping people. And this is by way that we can provide correct intervention, and perhaps we will be able to refer them properly to professionals. So one of the best ways by which we'll be able to really help people is that it has been proven because of the results of psychological tests and assessments that uh, there is a need for counseling. So this is my final slide, and what do we expect? I hope that you will join me in the conduct of this training program in understanding better psychological tests and assessments on July 12 to 13. I hope to see all of you, and we will be discussing a lot more with regards to understanding psychological tests and assessments, and I hope that you will be able to really appreciate the use of psychological tests and assessments in different setups, one of which is really in terms of hiring. So it's always said, success and failure of many companies is because of people. So we need to hire competent, competent. That means to say they have the cash to cash, the knowledge, the attitude, the skills as well as the habits. And the way to measure it and examine it is through psychological tests and assessments. This is not something that we need to fear. This is not something that we can be intimidated because the purpose of this particular tools and techniques is to help people, to help the company, to help the employees and everyone. And I wish that in proper evaluation of people, not necessarily the person per se, but the behavior is we can help them. So I wish to see you again. Let me invite you for this training. Thank you very much.